HarperCollins presents A Friend Called Alfie by Rachel Wells. Read by Edward Killingback. Chapter 1. There was something about the Devon air which felt so different from Edgar Road, where we lived most of the time in London. As the sea breeze whipped through my fur, it soothed and chilled me at the same time. It had been a very stressful time lately, and for my kitten George, who would probably argue that he was no longer a kitten but a proper cat, so we were enjoying a well-deserved holiday, and a much-needed change of scene. We were on a 2-week holiday at my human family's holiday home, Seabreeze Cottage, in Linstow, Devon. The human family consisted of Claire, Jonathan, and their children Toby and Summer. Not forgetting our cat family, my cat son, George, and Gilbert, who lived full-time at Seabreeze Cottage. Gilbert had been there before us and had become one of our closest friends. Although we didn't get to see him as often as we'd like, we always had fun whenever we were together. Gilbert was more independent than George and me, having fended for himself for years before we met him. If I'm honest, George and me are pampered cats, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It hasn't always been that way. There was a time when I was homeless for a while, and I had to fend for myself. My first human owner, Margaret, died when I was a young cat, leaving me heartbroken and alone. I became a doorstep cat, a cat with different homes and owners, which comes with many benefits, I can assure you, but more of that later. Thankfully, after some time on the streets, I found my way to Edgar Road, where I met my current human families. George came to live with my main human family as a kitten, having never had to fend for himself. He's a lot more spoilt than me, but he's kind-hearted, and I love him more than all the pilchards in the world. We've had a rough year, my George and I. My girlfriend, the cat who George thought of as his mum, Tiger, had fallen ill and passed away before Christmas. We're still grieving her, if I'm honest. I don't think you ever stop missing those you love, and I have loved and lost a lot in my life. But as a doorstep cat with multiple humans in my life, Claire and Jonathan and their children Toby and Summer, Polly and Matt and their children Henry and Martha, Francesca and Tomash and their children Alexi and Tommy, you'll meet my other humans soon enough. Although this year was unfortunate in many ways, one thing we learnt was that life carries on regardless of the sadness you hold in your heart, and we had to carry on with it. I know. Why don't we go to the sand dunes? George suggested. Last one there's a dog, Gilbert, who had joined us on the beach, shouted, taking off. We followed him, hot on his paws. I was breathless as I made it just a fraction later than George and Gilbert. Don't call me a dog, I warned, narrowing my eyes, and they both laughed. I'm going to slide down on my bottom, George said. The carefree sound of his voice made me so happy. He wriggled onto his bottom and tried to slide down the sand. The problem was that sand isn't very slippery, it's grainy, and it sticks to fur like glue. I went to try to give George a gentle push with my paw, but I tripped over his tail and landed with a bump almost on top of him. "Roar!" I cried. "Dad!" he chastised as we both started rolling down, and although it was a little bit scary, we got to the bottom in one piece. That was so much fun, Dad, George said, reminding me that maybe he was growing up fast, but he was still a kitten, my kitten, in so many ways. Can we do it again? Let me catch my breath, I pleaded. I certainly wasn't a kitten in any way anymore, but I would do anything for my boy. Come on, George, Gilbert shouted from the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?